Hello, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram fam. Welcome to the first show of the rebranded The Other Side. And I am thrilled beyond, I can't even tell y'all how thrilled I am to have Kevin Hines as my first guest on. Kevin, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I'm thrilled to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. This is going to be wonderful.
Thank you so much. For those of you that are familiar with Kevin or know his story, that's great. You're going to be one up on some people. If you're not familiar with his story, I will summarize it really quick, and then I'm going to let Kevin tell us his story, and then I'm going to bombard him with questions. So Kevin, at the age of 17, please correct me if I'm wrong, at the age of 17 was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Fast forward 2 years, things were going on in his life that he felt like he just could not handle, and attempted suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and obviously survived because here he sits. And what an amazing testimony that you have from that time in your life that caused you to be that depressed. And I can't wait to hear the story from you. So I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you for that intro. And yes, in the year 2000, because of depression and bipolar disorder, I attempted to take my life by way of jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, a way that is 98% fatal. 98% of those who do what I did never get to share their stories. And I'm very blessed to be alive, to be sitting here talking to you and to your audience. But to go back before that day and describe to you what led up to it, we have to start, truly from the very beginning.
Right.
The day I was born. I was born in August in 1981. I was born to biological parents who, after they had me and my brother, fell into substance use disorder, and also have been diagnosed in their day with manic depression, what we today call bipolar disorder. And so, because of their drug use, they left me and my brother unattended to go do sell drugs, and we were living neglected and abandoned most of the time, until one fateful day, one seedy motel clerk made his most unseedy decision, heard our screams and cries in his mind one too many times, and called the police. And the police came in with Child Protective Services, and they swooped us up and they placed us into the system, into foster care. And for all the good that foster care has done in this country, it's done a world of bad, allowing kids to age out to 18 into homelessness without a penny in their pockets, or allowing other kids to be abused and neglected by the very foster parents set to protect them.
Right.
So we bounced around from home to home, and we both got bronchitis, the same strain, and he died. Oh. And I immediately developed severe abandonment issues and a detachment disorder that follows me until today. Every time somebody I love dies, I feel like they're leaving me on purpose, and I can't shake it. Mm-hmm. It's been a long journey, but unlike my poor brother, I got very lucky. I was adopted and taken in by the Hines family and made into a Hines. They are my mom and dad, Pat and Debbie Hines. They gave me hope and a future and possibility, and they saved my life. They opted to take in 3 kids from 3 separate families into one and made a melting pot of a family. We didn't look alike. We weren't the same race, and people noticed. People were very confused, quite frankly. Me, I'm mixed, part black, part Arawak Indian, Jamaican, Portuguese, Irish, Scottish, and part African. And my brother's black, and my sister's white, and my mom and dad are Irish and German. And when people would see us at restaurants, their heads would turn. As a matter of fact, there were some restaurants that wouldn't allow us to eat at night because of what we looked like as a family.
Oh my God.
But we didn't care. We got up, we went somewhere else, we ate something else.
Right.
And so this brings me to this gift of life that Pat and Debbie gave us, this gift of a new possibility, an opportunity, because of how hard they worked. Nothing was handed to them either. They had to work very hard for what they had. And I thought to myself growing up, how can anything go sideways from here? I'm going to get into that great school, I'll get that good job, and it'll be all put together. And then at 17, it all came crumbling down. I had a complete mental breakdown at 17 in front of 1,200 people.
Mm.
And I ended up going to a psych ward. I ended up going to see my first psychiatrist after that. Sadly, he would end up taking his life. The same with the theater director that directed the play I was in. I would lose in my time 9 people to suicide that I loved, and that's 9 people too many. So I'm both an attempt survivor and a loss survivor.
Right.
When I got to the point at 19 years of age where I believed suicide was the only option, I never wanted to die, Stacy. I only believed I had to. And those are 2 categorically different things.
Right.
And in September 2000, the pain was so overwhelming, the brain pain was so overwhelming that I couldn't cope. I pretended to be fine in front of everybody. I fooled most of the people that knew and loved me. They knew I was erratic. They knew I was unwell, but they didn't know why.
Right.
They certainly didn't know I was having hallucinations every day, auditory and visual. They certainly didn't know that on the buses I was on, I believed everyone was out to get me, trying to hurt me, trying to kill me. They certainly didn't know that I was suicidal. And although my father did his best to help me that morning of my attempt, he didn't know the right questions to ask because no one taught Pat Hines suicide prevention.
Right.
He had been on the phone with my psychiatrist nights before, begging him for help the night before my attempt. And the doctor told my father, Patrick, there's nothing wrong with your son. It's just a temporary stage. He'll be out of it in a couple of days. And he was nearly dead wrong.
Mm.
And so on the day of my attempt, I got on a bus and I sat there crying, and I hoped and I wished and I prayed that one person would see me, see my pain, and say something kind. But instead, people just mocked me.
Yeah, that really resonated with me when I heard you say that. And it's just so hard to believe that people are that cruel, that nobody on a bus full of people recognized that you were hurting and would mock you instead of reach out a hand. That happens more than I know. And
I don't think it's indicative to people everywhere. I think that there are a great many people that care enough to reach out and to say, hey, how you going? But I think that it's not the norm.
Right.
I think that there's a percentage of people that would do that. I think we need to find ways to get more people to be that person.
True.
Had one person come up to me and said, hey, kid, are you okay, brother? Is something wrong? Or pal, can I help you? I would have told them everything and begged them to save me.
Yeah.
I made a pact with myself, much like many suicidal people do. If one person does this, then I will do that. If one person says this kind of thing, I'll stay. If one person is this mean, I will go. And for me, the only thing I got was a mocking. And then on the bridge that day, bikers, joggers, tourists, runners, police officers searching for suicidal people that all went by me twice. And I ended up, at the railing with no hope. And here's the thing, the hope was there. The light at the end of the tunnel was there. I just couldn't reach it. I hadn't walked far enough to reach it. I hadn't asked for help. I hadn't begged and pleaded for help. And I'll tell you that today, I know that my thoughts don't have to become my actions. My thoughts of suicide, when I have them today, and I still do not have to lead me to attempt. Right. They have to lead me to say 4 simple but effective words. I need help now. To anyone and everyone willing to listen. And that's how I stay alive today. Right. I will never die by my hands so long as I shall live. Somebody tells you Kevin Hines died by suicide, you open an all-out investigation, it was a murder. Okay? It's never going to happen because I recognize my true value and I'm self-aware with my diagnosis. Now, that's a hard place to get to for a lot of people, but it's not impossible. Right. With hard work comes hope. With hope comes possibility. And with possibility comes a future living well with your diagnosis or your struggle, whatever it may be. It may not be that you have a mental illness. You may not have one, but you might just need a forward-looking ideal to stay alive here in the present. A lot of people right now in COVID times a lot more people than ever before are commenting on how they're struggling mentally being in lockdown and in quarantine.
Right.
And a lot more people than ever before are attempting and dying by suicide. The numbers we're going to see in a few years when we have the data are going to astound us. Japan has it already. In the month of October, more people died in Japan of suicide than all of COVID months combined, the entire year combined.
Wow.
And so that's Japan. The numbers in America are going to be similar. I'm telling you.
Right.
We need to help people realize their true value, even in the face of great pain. Pain is inevitable. It's coming for all of us, if it hasn't already.
Right.
Suffering is optional. You know, I don't want to call you out on your narrative, but I'll tell you that you mentioned that your son suffers from, I think, OCD.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to consider challenging that narrative. That narrative comes from every clinician we've ever seen. They look at us, they assess us, and they tell us we're suffering from bipolar disorder, we're suffering from OCD, or we're suffering from schizophrenia or an eating disorder, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
I challenge that narrative and I say that we are not suffering from anything. We are living with it, battling it, and trying to thrive again. And I say that only because I don't mean to disrespect you, but I say that only
no, please.
If we call ourselves sufferers, then we are internalizing and making ourselves the victims of our own story.
Right.
But if we say that we are living with, battling, and thriving in spite of it, we then become the hero of our own story. And I think that narrative has been far too often propagated by clinicians because that's what they know. But once they tell us that, we adopt it. I will tell you, for years, I said I was suffering from this and suffering from that. I blogged about it. I wrote about it. I did videos about it. And now I've changed my tune because I recognize that pain is there. It exists. It's going to come for you. But it doesn't mean you have to suffer. It means you have to find new ways to thrive.
Right. I like that. I'm glad you told me that. I like that. That's definitely, it's another coping tool to name something correctly or refer to it correctly in a helpful way instead of a more harmful way.
Well, I think it empowers you. It empowers the person who's going through the pain to say, no, I am better than this. I'm stronger than this, and I can defeat this one day at a time. Right.
I like that. Okay, so I definitely want to hear about, as I said, I know your story well, but for those that don't, immediately, obviously, we know when you jumped off, you knew right then, I made a mistake. I don't want to die. But were you already, sorry, I don't mean to be stuttering here. The impact of the water, I suppose, is what broke all the bones in your body. So swimming would have been impossible.
Well, actually, what happened was the millisecond my hands left the rail, there was an instant regret for my actions and the 100% recognition that I just made the greatest mistake of my life, and I thought it was too late. The impact of the water shattered only my T12, L1, L2 lower vertebrae into shards. I missed severing my spinal cord that day by 2 millimeters.
Wow.
Millimeters. Yeah. I went down 70 feet, came to the surface, almost didn't make it, thought I was going to drown, was convulsing, was running out of air. I swam 70 feet to the surface as I went down 70 feet in the water. Went 70 feet to the surface with one breath, was running out of oxygen, was convulsing. And I thought to myself, if I die here, no one's going to ever know I didn't want to. And I kept fighting to the surface, even though I was out of air. I broke the surface. I took a big gasp of air, and I did the one thing I've had control over since kindergarten. I prayed, God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake on repeat, and I know he heard me. A woman driving by in a red car saw me go over the rail and called her friend in the Coast Guard. The singular reason the Coast Guard boat arrived to my position in the water before I would set in hypothermia and drown was because that woman made that phone call in the timely manner in which she did, a 3-minute window before I'd set in hypothermia and drown. Before the Coast Guard boat arrived, I was going under the water. I couldn't stay afloat. And something began to circle beneath me, something large and very slimy and very alive. And I remember freaking out because I thought it was a shark and I thought it was going to eat me. And I'm punching this thing, but it won't go away. It just circles faster and faster. And no longer am I wading in the water to stay afloat. I'm lying atop it, being kept buoyant by this creature. Thinking to myself, this is one hell of a nice shark. Well, it turns out It was no shark at all. It was a sea lion. And I know this because when I was on ABC News a year later promoting a suicide prevention campaign, a man wrote into the show from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was on the bridge that day with his mom, and he said, "Kevin, I'm so very glad you're alive." This is the letter to ABC News. "Kevin, I'm so very glad you're alive. I was standing less than 2 feet away from you when you jumped. Until this day, watching this show, no one would tell me whether you lived or died. It's haunted me until now. By the way, there was no shark like you mentioned on the show, but there was a sea lion. And the people above looking down believed it to be keeping your body afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind you." Subsequently, 3 other people went to the Coast Guard that day and told them the same story. And he sent pictures to me of the to that effect. When you look at the pictures, it's my lifeless looking body on top of the water and this creature circling beneath me. And it's very morbid, but it's very powerful.
Oh, no, I would see it as powerful.
This creature absolutely kept me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me, and it absolutely saved my life. Yeah. And I believe in miracles, and I believe it was a miracle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do as well. You prayed to God to save you, and God sent that sea lion to save you. It's just the way I look at it. And on that same token, some people would say, because you just mentioned you knew since kindergarten how to pray. Why didn't you pray yourself out of suicide attempt?
You know, I hear this all the time, Stacey, and
I don't think that way. I'm just
I really appreciate the question because it's good to address it.
Right.
In many communities around the world, there's a system of belief that if you just believe enough and you just have enough faith, that you can pray your way out of mental disease.
Right.
This is not fair to the people with the mental disease.
Right.
Your brain is an organ, just like every other organ in the body. And just like every other organ in the body, it can become diseased and you can die from it. If you had liver, heart, lung, or kidney disease, would you tell the people just to pray it away? Now, I understand praying that you'll get better. That's fine. I get that.
Right.
But that comes along with treatment, or else there's no way to defeat. You can't get liver disease and kidney disease and just pray them away and think you're going to get better. I'm sorry. It's not how it works. And so if that's not how it works, why is it any different with the brain? And so we have to tell people who tell their loved ones to just pray it away, it's not that simple. Your brain is the single most powerful organ you wield. It is mostly on automatic mode, and it controls every action and inaction you take, every decision and indecision. If your brain is malfunctioning, for lack of a better term, there goes the rest of you.
Right.
And that's what happened to me on the day I went over the Golden Gate Bridge. I had faith. I've always had faith. I lost it on that day.
Yeah.
I did. And you know, I'm lucky I got to live. I'm blessed I got to live. There's so many people, 98%, that never get to look at anyone, share anything with anyone ever again. And their families have lost them forever to something that is so devastating called suicide.
Right.
And the people who have lost loved ones to suicide from any means, that kind of death is unlike any other. It's unlike murder. It's unlike dying from a heart attack. It's unlike dying from liver, heart, kidney, or lung disease. It is solely its own unit of it's one of the worst traumas a family that resumes here can have for the rest of their lives. And I don't believe people can ever, being a person who's lost 9 people, I don't believe people can ever move on. I don't believe you can move on from a suicide. Yeah. I believe you can look to the living and find ways to move forward. You'll never forget what happened. You'll think about the person every day of the week for the rest of your life. You'll wish you did things differently because there's no way of getting around that. But it's not your fault they died.
Right.
It's not your fault they died. It's time to look to those who still remain and find ways to move forward. And here's a recommendation I have for people who've lost loved ones to suicide and don't know how to broach the conversation with the people around them. Consider this. Consider celebrating their birthday, the day they were born and brought into this world without that pain. Consider celebrating the day they were brought into this world with cake and a candle, or whatever or vegetables, I don't care, you know. And on that day you celebrate with other people that love them just as much as you do, you're only allowed to talk about the good times. You're only allowed to speak on the beautiful moments you shared with them on that one day of the year. And consider celebrating their life like that on every day, because you need to. You need to find new ways to reminisce on what was beautiful in their lives and yours with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What if you know someone that you think is, I was about to use that word again, suffering. If you know someone that you think is having suicidal thoughts, what is the best way to help them?
I think there's a couple things you can do. One thing you can do is call them, FaceTime them, Zoom them. You know, in COVID times, it's hard to see them, but, you know, get in contact with them any way you can. Try to make it something where they can see your face on the screen and say, hey, I know you're going through a lot right now, and I want to ask you a question, series of questions. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about what you're going through, and I want to know if you've ever considered dying by suicide. I want to know if you've ever made plans to take your life. It doesn't put the thought in their mind if it's not already there. Right. What it does is give them permission to speak on their pain, and a pain shared is a pain halved. So be bold, be honest about it, and be true to yourself. But ask the questions.
But how likely is someone that is seriously contemplating suicide, how likely is it that they're going to be honest with you and say, yeah, I've thought about it?
There are people that hide it very well. And there are people that are not going to answer honestly the first time. But if you plug away at it and you really dig deep, statistically, more people tell you the truth than do not.
So it is completely
because they can't say it out loud first. They feel alone. You're giving them the space and the floor to be heard. You're giving them their voice back. And they often will say, how did you know? And why do you care? And then you go into how you knew and why you cared. And you let them know that it's not the answer to the problem. It is the problem, and that you can be there for them in their time of need.
I like that. And oftentimes people think, and I'm guilty of it, if someone says to you, I'm going to kill myself, I'm tired of living, a lot of times people think if you tell it, you don't really mean it. That if someone is seriously contemplating suicide, they're going to keep it to themselves because they don't want you to save them.
On that side of things, you can never, ever diminish or invalidate someone's suicidal ideation. Because even if they say it 1,000 times and they don't do it, they're still considering it 1,000 times.
Right.
And that could lead to an attempt at any time. So please take that cry for help seriously. You're lucky they told you in the first place. It's time to take action to better themselves and to help them get to a better place.
Right. Because even if they do verbalize it, if it is sadly someone that is just crying wolf for attention, it may not be. And you'd rather save that person than ignore that person. Just like if someone just to you that day.
It's because it's never truly crying wolf. They absolutely feel suicidal. They feel like they have to die, but oftentimes they're fearful of attempting in the first place. But they're considering it on a regular basis, on a continual chronic basis. Please don't ignore that. Please don't neglect that. They need your help.
Awesome. I'm glad I asked you that as well. Because there are a lot of myths out there, so to speak, that people think, oh, well, if they speak it, they don't mean it. And I'm so glad to hear you say that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Yep.
A lot of people want to know if suicide is hereditary. But as you said in the beginning, telling your story, it's not that suicide is hereditary, but the mental illness that you may have could be hereditary.
Well, it certainly can be genetic. I'm not sure about hereditary, but what the issue with suicide is that um, in families that have generational suicides, that have suicides generation after generation, it's not so much that it's in the genes that they're suicidal. It's that the past generations of those who have died by suicide make that an option for later generations. Because it's been done, it can be done. Because my grandfather died, let's just give you a hypothetical. Because my grandfather died by suicide and my stepfather died by suicide, or my father died by suicide, I can now consider suicide. It's a dangerous, it's not so much a contagion as it is a dangerous kind of courage that leads people from generation to generation to take their lives. If it's part of the family, that cycle needs to be broken, and that cycle needs to be broken by other family members who say, get together with the family. We are not allowing this to happen anymore. What do you need from me to keep you here?
Yeah, I like that. So, and that's what you needed that day. If someone had, what would have prevented you from jumping that day?
Had someone said to me, are you okay? Is something wrong, or can I help you? I would have told them everything. Also, had someone said to me, Kevin, are you thinking of killing yourself? I would have told them the truth. I desperately wanted someone to ask me that question. I could not voice it because of the voices in my head, the auditory hallucinations, the visual hallucinations, the panic disorder, the mania, the depression, all of it simultaneously. I was overwhelmed. My circuits were broken. I needed someone to reach in. My dad tried that morning, but he didn't ask me if I wanted to kill myself. He asked me if I was okay. And at that point in time, on the morning, I was not ambivalent like I was on the bus when I wanted someone to ask me if I was okay. When I was with my father that morning at 6 a.m., I could only feel the pain. It wasn't until I got on the bus that I was ambivalent, that I desperately wanted to live, but I couldn't voice my struggle. I needed someone to reach in.
So word choice is so very important then.
Language and word choice is very important. The crisis text line has determined through their algorithm that asking the question, are you thinking of killing yourself, rather than are you thinking of suicide, gets statistically more honest answers than are you thinking of suicide. The proper question to ask to get the most truthful answer is, are you thinking of killing yourself? And then, have you made plans to take your life? And how can I help you stay here? It's a succession of being the one to help save a life.
Right. And is that where your hashtag Be Here Tomorrow came from?
The hashtag Be Here Tomorrow was in part my brainchild. I wanted people to find a reason, because I kept running into people that were chronically suicidal but didn't know what to call it. They were constantly thinking of suicide, constantly attempting, and constantly having no way out. So I just asked them to be here tomorrow and every day after that. So be here for a 24-hour period and then get to that next 24-hour period.
Right.
And since then, people have gotten tattoos of my sea lion insignia, Herbert, the sea lion that saved my life. I named him. And they've gotten the message, be here tomorrow, on their arms or their legs. And they've really taken to it. It's had an international phenomenon of being a part of a great many viral videos. There are groups out of China and Japan that make Be Here Tomorrow t-shirts now, fraudulently so, because we had them first, but that's okay. We want everybody to use it, so please take it. It's yours. But it's really about spreading that message that you've got this on lockdown. You can defeat this pain. But we've also got to consider making people's lives better and more worth living for. Everybody's life is worth living, right? We at the Hines Foundation believe that everyone's life is worth living, no matter what kind of pain you're in. But there's something to be said about people's struggles financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, and their lack of a good existence. We have to help people make their lives more valued, so that they can recognize that suicide never has to be the option.
Right. I wish, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, I wish I could talk to you for hours longer. but unfortunately we are running out of time. We're actually out of time. I'm sad.
That's okay. Well, we can find a way to do a part 2 one of these days.
Yes, I would definitely love that. So obviously you have the Hines Foundation. You go around the world on speaking engagements. What is it exactly that you do? If you can tell everybody, what does the Hines Foundation do?
So we raise funds for free teletherapy for kids who can't afford it in high school and in grade school.
That's
We
amazing.
also raise funds for micro labs and suicide prevention as well to fund research for suicide prevention. And you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kevin Hines, and find 400 videos, all designed to help keep you here and change your life. And people say from as far as Peru, Africa, China, and Japan, and America, that these videos are saving and changing their lives, that they watch them and they stay here. And we don't own that. We don't say that we do that. We say that we're conduits of change, and people find these videos and then they go home and do the work and they save and change their own lives. But yeah, it's a channel that's meant for everybody, and there's plenty of resources in it. And find the videos that help you.
I love that. I love that. And now I would imagine you welcome donations to the foundation.
We do. We welcome donations to the foundation, and you can donate at kmhinesfoundation.org. Once again, that's kmhinesfoundation.org. And you can donate straight to the cause, and we'd be grateful.
Okay, I will put that up here on this link as well. I just wanted to write it down real quick so I wouldn't forget it. So anybody that's listening, I will have that listed on here if anyone so feels led to donate. Kevin, any last words? I think the best way to end this is, what advice would you give to someone if someone's watching right now that is contemplating suicide, if they're hurting? What is your best advice that you could give them right now as to what they could do right now?
It's the advice I always give someone in this predicament. Stop right now and take a breath. Inhale 4 seconds through your nose. Exhale, like pursed lips like a whistle, but no sound, for 8 seconds. 4, 8. Do that 30 times. Bring your body and mind to a calm. Get on your phone and call a confidant, a friend, a loved one, or anyone you know you can empathize with your pain. Say 4 simple but effective words to them when you get on the phone. I need help now. Let them know you're suicidal, and don't physically move from your position. Stay exactly where you are. If you are near a means of suicide, remove it from your situation entirely. Push it to the side, push it away, or if it's physical structure, move away from the ledge. Wherever you are, stay away from your suicidal intent. If you can't contact anyone right away, text the crisis text line at CNQR to 741-741. Text CNQR to 741-741. Or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, +1 for military. 1-800-273-8255, +1 for military. There's always a way to keep you safe in that moment. Let's get you to a safe place. Let's get you to safe people. Let's make sure that suicide doesn't become your end game. And really, I want you to consider all the children who never made it past the womb. My wife and I know that pain all too well. We had a miscarriage. Our boy, Jack Ryan, lived 8 weeks and no more. He wasn't intended to be here in physical form, but you all are, because I'm looking at you through the screen. I know you're supposed to be here. Fight the pain, in spite of the pain, despite of the pain, to thrive with me today. You deserve this life into your natural end.
Awesome. I wish we had so much more time. There's so much more to be said on this subject. And I cannot thank you enough for being with me today, sharing your story, sharing your knowledge. I second everything that you said. If there is someone out there that is hurting, please reach out to someone. There's someone that cares. there's someone that cares that's just a touch away. Again, I cannot thank you enough. I'm so glad that you are here today to share your story. It is powerful. I'm sure there's no way to count the numbers of people that you have reached with your story that you prevented directly or indirectly from following out with a suicide plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
I appreciate you being here. I thank you just for being you to your wife as well. Y'all have wonderful holidays, and thank you
very much.
For being here. For anyone that has stayed with us to watch the show live, thank you so much for tuning in. Those that will watch the replay, thank you. Share this. You never know who it may help. Thank you, and y'all have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Be here tomorrow. Absolutely.